Colin Channon.
Thank you very much. I thought I came quite colourfully dressed today until I saw Stuart, and I feel really drab now next to him. So I'll stand away from him, I think. So, but thanks for inviting me down. It's been a really, really hectic week, which is why I've not been back in touch with you. Going back into changing the paper to tabloid after 127 years was a big change for us. It was a bigger change because the broadsheet was very successful. I've only been with the company since October. And we had a week only a couple of weeks ago when all 5 editions of the paper had a year-on-year sales increase, retail sales increase. There's not many papers in the country that have been showing sales growth. I mean, if you look at online, everything is doom and gloom, and newspapers are dying, and they won't be around in a year's time, and all that load of old rubbish. So the paper was already really successful. So we didn't change to a tabloid because the paper was dying or it needed an injection of life or anything like that. It was purely because when I came, we did a piece in the paper to ask readers what they wanted from their local paper, and overwhelmingly it was, can you please make it smaller? And we got a nice letter in the paper this week from a chap who says to read the old broadsheet, you need arms 4 feet tall, 4 feet long, and be able to if you could turn pages in a force 8 gale, that always held you in good stead too when you try to read the old paper. But what we decided to do was, rather than just it was 32 pages of a broadsheet, rather than just double it and make it 64 pages for a tabloid, we thought we'd take the opportunity to add more to the paper. So the experts, if you listen to all the experts, they call it a change of pace, which is a really fancy way of saying, before we went news, and then adverts, and then sport. Then we decided to change it. We brought some clubs and societies. One of the things readers wanted were more clubs and societies and more really local grassroots news in the paper. So we brought clubs and societies in, which is just so successful. We started with a half a page of broadsheet, soon went to a page of broadsheet. It was then running at 2 pages of broadsheet. We're now doing 4 pages of tabloid on the clubs and societies, and it's still not enough. We're still getting sent so much of it. So we brought that in. So what we've done here is kept all that in, but also brought in a new section which is just called Living. Which is that's a nice reader's picture. Every week there'll be a reader's picture on the front, and it's more lifestyle-y bits and pieces, which is where you can come in. So one other thing we did when we made the change was we changed the business section of the paper too. We've now got 2 pages. We've teamed up with the Bordon Hub and the Farnham Hub as well. To work with them, because we need to get much closer to the business community. As a paper, we'd lost connection with the local groups, we'd lost connection with businesses, and we're now working to bring that connection back. So you feel comfortable picking a phone up to us and talking to us, whereas I think before we weren't too welcoming. People didn't feel comfortable of picking a phone up just to say, I've got this story, will it make a story? And that's what we need to be. We need for you to be comfortable to pick a phone up and say, such and such has happened, like I made a citizen's arrest, which I should very keen on that story. And you feel comfortable with picking a phone up to us and just say, this has happened, will it make a story? And sometimes it won't, but sometimes it will. So there are now lots more platforms in the paper for you to tell your story. We've got a chap in there in the paper in the launch edition who has started a business looking. He was in the armed services, realised a lot of people left the armed services with mental health issues, and he's now started a business helping those kind of people. So that's more than a business story. That's more of a lifestyle story. And so he had quite a nice feature in the paper here. In the paper this week, we've got a piece on a man who's snapping away at the back on what he's doing with his. I won't tell you what the story is. I'll make you buy the paper tomorrow and find out. But he's moving his. He's got an initiative that we reported on in the paper tomorrow. So there are loads more platforms now within the paper for you to tell your story. What we need now is for you to tell us what your stories are, because we can't. The times we hear from people to say, "Oh, you never printed this in our paper," we didn't print it. We didn't know about it. And we'd rather 2 people told us about something than nobody did. So we need you to feel comfortable to talk to us. And so there's loads of platforms in the paper. We also do in here a first-person piece, which Emma is taking to talk about the Bordon Hub, but it's open for everybody. So anybody can if they've got a story to tell, or if they've had through their starting a business and they've got a good story to tell, or they can pass some advice to other people who are on the same route, tell us about it, and we'll run it in as a first-person column in the paper as well. So there's now loads more platforms within the paper. So what makes a story? That if you ring us up and just say, I've started a new business, that's not really a story. That's not going to work for us, really. It's unless you have something really a nice little something to peg the story on. Now, if you ring us up and just say I'm starting a florist's, you're starting a florist, so that might be one paragraph just to say you're starting a florist. If you say to us, I'm starting a florist, but for the last 20 years I've suffered from hay fever, actually that turns into quite a good story. And you're likely to get a front page picture for that one and the story inside. So it's knowing what kind of makes a story. It's just something to pick. And to be honest, most people, if they in their business or in their lifestyle, have got something very, very interesting, and it's just teasing that out. When we sit down and interview people, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I haven't got much of a story to tell," and you sit down and talk to them, and you realise, crikey, there's a really good story coming out of here. So it's teasing out that little nugget, really, that you can then build the story around. Another way of getting in the paper, of course, is offers. And we've done several offers. We're now getting, as you can see, we've got 3 here on the front page. Here, we're getting much bigger as a paper on giving readers something a little bit extra. Readers love a bargain. You'll know, as business people, customers love a bargain. So something as simple to us as a free tea or coffee. And that is just really simple. We put a voucher in the paper, and they cut a voucher out, and they go in and have a free tea or coffee. And we did it we started, first one was with Heidi in Elfix. They had a fantastic response, so good that they did it again when we launched as a tabloid. They want to do it again. There was a small cafe in Alton who saw that one and got in touch and said, "Can we do that?" So we said, "Absolutely." So we did it for them. They had 100 people on the first day. And you know what it's like with a coffee shop. If you find a coffee shop you like, you just keep going. It's a bit like a garage, isn't it? Where you get your petrol from. You find one you like, you just keep going back and keep going back. So they had 100 people through the doors on the first day using the voucher. And then they wanted to do it again, but the second time they did it, they wanted to change it. Could we make it a takeaway coffee? Because your readers just took up all our tables, which of course we're happy to do. Because, so for us, it's a really good selling point for us. You buy your paper for 80p, and you can have a coffee that's, what is it these days? £2, £1.50. You go to Costa, it's even more. So you can just go in, and of course, because readers like a bargain, they'll go in and think they've got a free coffee, so I'll buy a nice £3 slice of cake. I don't know where that works, and they haven't paid £2.20 for a cup of coffee, but they're happy to buy a £3 piece of cake. But it's getting them through the door. And we can help with that. So if you're a business that we did one with a chocolate firm a little while ago. You might have seen it in the paper. A local firm who make these fantastic chocolates, and they got in touch and said, "Could we do anything? Could we do anything with you?" And we said, "Yeah, we'll do a competition." And we did it at Valentine's, and to win a box of their really good chocolates. So they gave us 6 boxes of chocolates. Where they had a plug like this on the front page, and we did a story inside on their business. Part of that was also is you could buy some chocolates, put the code in that was in the paper, and you can have 10% off. They said it was fantastic. They had a really good response, and they've got more business on the back of it for being in the paper. So it didn't cost them, the minimal cost to them was just giving us 6 boxes of chocolates. And but the value from that and the extra value they got from the exposure in the paper had a really good knock-on effect to them. We also sent a reporter down there later, and she's been in there making chocolate. Don't worry, they're not for sale. She made the chocolates, and we're doing a piece because we're going to get involved with the Phyllis Tuckwell 40th anniversary. We're going to have a campaign to raise the money for them. Their corporate colour is going to be probably a red colour for their campaign. So they're going to produce some chocolates with a red filling, and we're going to sell those through the paper and through different outlets, and the money raised from the selling of the chocolates will go to the appeal. But again, it's good brand exposure for them at the same time, and all that has come from one phone call to say what can we do. So even if you're a firm that makes dash cams, and you think, well, you're not going to write a story about us making dash cams, but actually a competition for somebody to win a dash cam, which would then get you a front page plug and a story inside about your dash cams and why people buy dash cams and how they're getting huge. Suddenly it just raises brand awareness again in the community for you for that one. So whatever business you've got, there's normally something there that the readers can connect to, and it's another way of getting your brand out into the market. Say on here we've got Birdworld who offered a family prize, and we do quite a bit with Hogsback. not because all journalists are alcoholics, although lots of them are. They're real success stories, a local firm. And so they'll quite often get in touch with us and just say, something's come along, can you get involved? And as a paper now, we're trying to be more creative in the way we cover stories. So we now have a Farnham Herald hop, with Hogsback, which we went down there when we planted, which gave them, again, it made a good piece in our Farnham Diary supplement of planting it and how you plant how you plant a hop and how it grows and when you start getting the return on the hops, which was good publicity for them, but really good for us because we're just doing something a little bit different. So we are trying to be a bit more creative. There was National Butchers Week a little while ago, and some papers would just do a feature on National Butchers Week. We decided we'd do a little bit different, and we spoke to a butcher's in Farnham, and they produced a Herald sausage for us. It was pork and mustard. It was really good. Took a bit longer to get in the paper than we initially thought because they tried a couple of recipes that didn't really work. They said we tried them or they weren't very good, so we had to go back to the drawing board. And they produced this sausage, which was something little bit. They'd never made one like this before. It was some pork and it was some pepper in it, but it had mustard as well in it, and it was a really, really good sausage. So we sent a reporter down, and she helped make the sausages. And we made a really good feature on her making the sausages, what goes into a sausage, how you make the sausage. We did an offer in the paper for people, if they wanted to buy the sausages, could cut the voucher out and go in there and buy the pound of sausages for like half price. So again, they got good footfall through the door. They had a really nice, wacky kind of creative feature in the paper. Again, much better than just a simple advert in the paper or just a story to say it's National Butchers Week. So we are trying to be, as a paper, more creative, trying to work with businesses. It's in our interests to have a thriving business community across all the Herald Group. We are a business as well, within the area. So, and we need to talk up the success stories. We are hoping to launch some business awards as well. It's in our programme we'd like to do in the future because there are so many stories out there that need telling, and the success stories. It doesn't matter if you're a small company and you've doubled your workforce, or you're a small company and you've doubled your turnover. That's a really good story. It doesn't matter if that turnover is £10,000, you've gone to 20, or if it's £1 million turnover and you've gone to 2 million. For a small business, doubling a turnover is a major event. Same way as it is if you're a big company, you've doubled. So whatever size of your business is, then just get in touch and tell us what is going on, and so we can have a chat to you and see actually how will this make a story? What can we do to tweak it around and make it a really good story? I launched business awards in one of my previous papers, and there were some businesses in the area we didn't even know existed, and you think that, and they were players on the world stage that we didn't even know they were there. So having something like an awards, I think, might just bring some of the businesses just to be a bit more aware, really, of actually know what the paper's there. We can help each other here. We can tell our story, and the paper will get good copy on the back of it. I'll talk forever, so ask questions as I'm. Yeah.
What's your coverage area? Because you've got Farnham Herald, Bordon Herald. How do you? Because we're across the region as well.
Yeah.
Will you put our piece a specific?
All editions? No, it'd be all editions. Yeah. Yeah, we do editionise the two business pages for Hampshire and Surrey because obviously the page is being sponsored and supported by the two hubs. So the Farnham Hub has the Surrey editions and the Bordon Hub has the Hampshire editions. Some of the copy goes across both. The columns change for the two editions. Some of the copy we can change across editions. But really what we're trying to do is get a business story in all editions. Because if you sell widgets and you produce widgets, it doesn't really matter if you've got a company in Godalming who picks up the paper or you're down in Petersfield. They're still going to want widgets. So we need to tell people in the community that you're selling widgets. So we will do it across the whole paper. We've also got the Petersfield Post series, so we go into there as well. We've got magazines. We do the living magazines that goes right the way around the area as well.
If you can just run down what list of publications you've got.
Farnham, Haslemere, Godalming, Petersfield. I'm going to miss one out now, aren't I? Yes, Liphook as well. Yeah. Bordon living. Yeah. Haslemere. Yeah.
Company tour.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got 3 free papers.
Actually, at the same time, would we be able to get a list of the areas that you're covering?
Yeah. It's the magazine, Godalming Living. Yeah. Yeah, and we've got plans to do it. We're going to have perfect band magazines as well. We're looking at the design of the magazines to make them more modern, a bit fresher. We're looking at increasing the pagination of the magazines as well, like we have with the paper. The magazines are lots of publishers are finding magazines are where where their future is. I mean, we're lucky and we've still got a really thriving newspaper as well as the magazines. So we still got.
What would make the difference between a magazine story and a news story?
Sometimes not much. Sometimes the magazine gives you a bit more because it's more lifestyle-y, so you've got a bit more space to play with. Sometimes a story is better for a magazine than is for the newspaper. I gave a little talk to the Farnham Hub a little while ago, and on the back of that, a lady got in touch, and she makes rain hats. Fantastic. She's on the front page of the Farnham Living this month. Really good picture of one of her hats because it's obviously April and we have April showers. We wanted a front cover to reflect that, and she's got a really fantastic picture of I don't know if it's her, one of her models. I've not met her because the reporter did it, wearing this rain hat with the water, with the rain coming down. It's a really fantastic image, and so again, that would help her brand awareness by being on the front cover of a glossy magazine. So, no, we do Surrey and Hampshire, and
most of this, like Farnham, Haslemere, Liverpool, Surrey.
No, Liverpool's Hampshire.
Yeah. Alton, yeah. No, Alton. We do Alton and Bordon. Obviously, the two papers in Alton and Bordon. Yeah, there's Alton and Bordon. Yeah. There you go. Look.
We definitely need a list of what you're.
Yeah. Well, there's the five. There's Liphook, Alton, Haslemere, and then Bordon and Farnham there. We also do the Petersfield Post, Clanfield Post, Horndean Post, Surrey and Hants, Alton Post and Gazette. We do the Meon Valley News monthly free paper as well. So we've got a huge. We are Hampshire and Surrey based really. So.
And if we have that conversation with you, you'll be able to sort of gear where you think that the right position would be, what platform to use.
And it may be it's both. It may be that we'll do a story in the newspaper, but actually we can be like the chocolate people. We did a story, we did the offer, and actually we're going to do a feature on them now in the magazine because it's a real magazine, really good magazine subject. So we're going to do more on them in the magazine. Again, we've got some really good pictures of the chocolates, which will be a really good front cover as well.
I don't want to preempt conversations you're already having with the Hub, but would you be able to give us, say, templated sort of formats where you can give us guidelines with specs and picture size and everything like that to save time? So if you want that regular content from us, if there was sort of templates in place that we can just throw stuff over.
Yeah, I'd rather you sent me an email and just said, this is with this in this such and such and such and such. What do you think? And I'll pick a phone up. And I'd much rather than somebody just template, because news can't be template, because every story is different. I'd rather that everybody felt comfortable enough to think, this is going on. I'll pick a phone up or just ping an email and just say, can you do something on this one? And then, because that's what we are. We're a newspaper. We talk to people. I mean, when we're talking now, we've already had a chat over a very nice cup of coffee in Alton. And then the tabloid came along, which has totally messed up my life at the moment. But I mean, that should get easier now. So we'll get the picture sorted out and we'll do the piece. And that was based on a meeting we had at a Hub meeting. Pinged us an email. We sat down over a cup of coffee. Journalists will always drink tea and coffee. And it'll turn into a really good story.
Brilliant, because there's kind of two relationships I've had in the past. Some where I've had that kind of, blah, blah, it was a chat. And others where, no, you need to send it in this format.
No.
Sort of like, it's nice to know, actually, that you want to go to the more human side.
Yeah.
Pick out the human story from us and see how you can turn that into a piece from...
We are a community newspaper. And really, we're unashamedly a community newspaper. We're not this posh regional paper that that is arm's length, and you think, I don't really want to get hold of the paper because that's the paper. We're just ordinary business people as well.
It's do a disservice for a paper because they don't get the news because people feel like, they're not going to write about little old me. But being able to pick up the phone, what I've found is talking to businesses over the years about their marketing. Quite often they bury the lead. We looked at one guy's website. And it wasn't until you got onto the payment page that it offered the 100% guaranteed money back. And I was like, why is this a headline? That's something that people need to know straight up front.
Yeah.
And we put it up there, things change. So it's really good to be able to pick up the phone and speak to a journalist because what might not seem like a story, that a little bit of digging might uncover a really interesting story.
Absolutely right, and they think creative as well, because we're trying to become a paper that doesn't just. I don't like our reporters cutting and pasting. You know, that they get an email cut, and if you like lots of papers around the country, you'll just read it and you'll think, crikey, that's just, you know, I don't understand that story. And one thing I say to my reporters is what does this mean in the story? And they'll say, oh, I don't know, it's in the email. I said, well, that's not good enough. You know, that story is your story, so you need to know what's in that story. You need to know what you're writing about. You can't just cut and paste it. So we're getting right away from cutting and pasting stuff. We're writing things, as I say, properly for a newspaper.
Breath of fresh air.
So,
yeah. That format where you do, and if you haven't done it to the right spec, they're not interested.
No,
Really
no. I mean, the only time we wouldn't change it was if you do a first-person piece, because that's your views. We're not going to go in and say, actually, no, your view's wrong, we're going to change that. We wouldn't do that. But for a news story, yeah, just pick a phone up and talk to us. And just because it may be that little thing that you think is insignificant that we think, oh, actually, that's like the hay fever and the florist. You think, crikey, that's actually turned that into a really, really good story. And sometimes it's just that little chat that can just make the difference.
And the person on the phone might not put the connection together between the fact that they've had hay fever and they've opened the florist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
To the journalist who makes the connection because they're looking for those kind of connections.
When, in one of my previous papers, we had a chap who did a digital column for us because there's more and more people, as you know, more and more people are going online now because you can get the iPad and like my old mother-in-law now, she calls it an iPid. She wants to buy an iPid, and because all her friends are now are online, and she wants to get online. I mean, she can't use a mobile phone. How she'll get on with it? I hope she's not going to see this, and how she'll get on with it, I don't know. But so in my last paper, we started almost like an internet for dummies kind of thing. You know, really basic, and there were things in there that I didn't know, and it was really basic. And we're going to launch something similar. We're talking to people here about doing something similar here. But yeah, that's right. Well, he started doing the little column, James, in the paper, and he got quite a good brand awareness from it. He wrote it in quite a nice, cheerfully kind of easy style. So people went to him for computer. A lot of families and older people went to him because they'd seen him write it in the paper and thought, you know, that he talks our language. He's not all geeky like he thinks most IT people are. And his business just boomed. He ended up going into schools and all kinds of things from it. On the back of, right from the beginning, was just a little column in the paper. So it can just little things like that can do wonders. We've got a health section in the paper now too. So anyone's got a good health story, we want to focus on, because there's so many variations now of health, whether it's you know, well-being or the mental health issues are huge around, and there's so much work going on with all types of health. We started a health section in the paper where people can tell their stories to us. I spoke to a lady in Farnham the other day who does hypnosis, and I said, oh, is it all, you know, or all the old Disney film, you know, with the eyes all going? And she said, no, it's not that at all. You know, I don't stand there with a watch. But she can help people, you know, with. She says she's had successes with smoking and fear of heights and even fears of public speaking. She's helped people through that. I think that's fascinating, and actually I'd quite like to learn more about that. So we're going to do that in the paper too with her about what hypnosis is all about. Yeah, well, there could be. We've got another lady in the paper this week, and she just runs a business. She's into dog training, and you know, like 25% of people own a dog. You think, crikey, that's a lot of our readers who've got a dog. So she's got a page lead in the paper tomorrow about just some tips on training your dog. Which is, I mean, she probably thought, well, yeah, I'll send him an email, but I don't expect from much of it. She's got a page lead in the paper, and is going to write us a regular column because it's interesting. You know, it's what people want to read about. It's family life. It's ordinary life. You know, it's so there's lots more opportunities to get involved in all that kind of thing.
And in terms of that, because some of them are news, sort of current affair timelines, but longer pieces like your sausage and the whole, that pays for long planning with you. So like. Yeah. I've got various hats, so let's say one of my hats was my insomnia practitioner. So what I did with Radio 5 Live was, and I scheduled a sleep event around the time the clocks change, because people have a real problem with the clock, you know, with the clocks going forward. So that's when I had my interview and got on to the radio. So again, working with you and having that kind of relationship means that you've got a longer lead time to plan sort of calendar events, really, haven't you?
Yeah, we have, and we'll also react to. We've got a solicitors who are doing a column next week on what no blame divorce really means for people, because that's in the news now.
Yeah.
So we've got a column on that next week. So we will react to what's going on, but no, it does mean this week we can plan ahead. Now a feature on you lose an hour's sleep, what do you do? But actually insomnia as a whole issue that comes under this health thing. Lots of people can't sleep.
Yeah.
So what is best?
Oh, I've got
Yeah,
yeah.
Now, if you say it's a glass of whiskey before you go to sleep, I'm with you all the way with that one. The column's done.
So it pays really when you've got your editorial schedule that you're planning for your business, for content production, to actually start thinking, right, well, that's the time to have a conversation with you now that you've got all this raft of publications to see what can fit with that.
Yeah, well, we have. Sir Ray Tyndall is really big into his old cars. We have a car festival, a motoring festival later in the summer. So again, nearer the time we're building up to that. So anything car themed would be great for to tie in around there, because we're doing a lot of stuff about vintage cars and bits and pieces there too. So there are events that we will gear our copy towards. Yeah.
We've got a member who restores classic VWs. We'll put her in touch.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Fantastic job.
Yeah. No, so anything. Remember, there's a story with most businesses and most people. There's a good story to be had. It's just teasing out that good story and finding that little thing there that people might even not think is a story, but actually to us, and something we can get nice and creative. We did a piece with one of the Hub members a while ago about his bicycle business, but he also offered if any businesses want to do, if they've got more than 5 employees and want to do a ride to work day, he'll go in and give every bike a road check for them, as a little offer, which again turned that story into a little story, into a page lead in the paper. It's just being a little bit creative, really, offering readers something. And if readers get involved, like some of the the coffee offers we do, if readers get involved in an offer, they've got that little affinity with the firm. Really just want to get their foot through the door. Really, that's the key. Get them involved and working with the business, and away you go. So, any other questions? I told you I'll talk forever. We do sell in West Sussex. Yeah. And we are, we'd like more editions, obviously, because we've got a paper that's selling really well at the moment. So, but we do sell quite a few papers in West Sussex. So magazines sometimes get picked up in West Sussex as well. So, my old papers, I used to edit those back in the day, so I know the areas really well. But if you've got a story to tell, like if you're based there but you work brings you over this side as well, then there's that. Just because you're based around, if you still work in this area, that doesn't matter. So, and we've got yeah 200-ish. 200-ish.
Yeah. Does that create the possibility if somebody was, if someone had a story in Farnham, but there was an umbilical cord to something that was going on in Manchester, like you say,
Yeah.
does that enable you to connect the story to the newspapers at Timberland
Yeah.
and Manchester?
Yeah, you should be our MD. That's exactly what we're talking about at the moment as a group, is we don't share copy at the moment at all. And we've got all these newsrooms around the country doing some fantastic stories that have much more of a life than like some of the bits and pieces, some of the features we're doing. Like insomnia. Now, just if you have problems sleeping, it doesn't matter if you're in Farnham or Alton or Bordon or Manchester, you're going to have problems sleeping. So if someone's got a really good feature from an expert talking about it, actually it doesn't really matter where that goes. I mean, our paper is very local. We keep things very local. But of course you can. Yeah, we should. We don't do it at the moment, and it's something as a business we're looking at doing, because we don't share anything like that at all. So we do puzzle pages in the paper, and everybody buys their own puzzle pages in. And you think, but you've got some papers who produce their own puzzle pages, and you think, well, actually, why? Okay, if you produce it, why aren't you just sharing it around the whole group? If you do a crossword, it doesn't matter where it's created on the Isle of Man or Manchester or the Isle of Wight. If it's a crossword, we'll take it as well. So as a business, as a company, we don't do enough sharing stories around, and I think that will change. I think we will do more sharing around. So if you've got a really good story to tell, and it's a human interest story, and it affects people. Like the royals, giving birth at home. They're all talking about at the moment. Now, if there was an expert locally about home births, that's a really good feature on wherever you are. So yeah, so you're right. We should syndicate more, and there is an opportunity to do that. Like if someone had I've been talking to the Isle of Man editor. If you had a link with an Isle of Man story, I'd ping him a copy of the story. But we don't do enough of that as a group at the moment. We've got 200 papers. You know, we should be doing much more of that.
What makes, for your mind, what are the ingredients that make a good story?
Just something that people want to read about. It really is. It sounds a really bland answer,
Yeah.
we're a paper aimed at a family, so you won't find any bad language in our paper because we set this thing that if a 5-year-old reads the paper and just says, "Mummy, what does this word mean?" If she's going to feel uncomfortable by that, we won't put that in the paper. So it's something that just people will find interesting. That's it. What people find interesting. It can either be a fantastic. I mean, our front page lead, here is in Bordon is the church that's sinking. It's based on sand and it's sinking, and we've got a nice wacky picture, and we've used it to publicise the appeal they're doing to raise money to save the church from sinking anymore. So it doesn't have to be an earth-shattering story. I mean, that was quite a dramatic one of a fire and somebody who thinks it might have been a deliberate act. The police aren't sure yet. They're not telling us whether it was or not. But so it can be a hard news story. It can be something quite soft. But as long as people want to read about it, that's just it. What people want to read about.
Is it the sort of thing that you would turn to your neighbour and go, "Oh,
yeah."
And this is interesting.
Yeah. There's when I was in Chichester. You mentioned Chichester. We had Chichester used to have 2 boot stores, if you remember the old days. And you used to go into one and think, "Oh, I'm in the wrong one. I have to go to the other one again." And we'd heard this whisper that when Woolworths closed down, they were going to go into Woolworths and make it quite a big boot store, one of the biggest outside London. And we led the Observer that week on Boots moving into Woolworths and having one store. Now, in lots of papers, that's quite soft. Boots going into Woolworths, so what? But we led the front page on it, and it was one of my biggest selling papers in all my time in Chichester. Because our readers, most of our readers are 55 plus, go to Boots for their prescription and everything else. That meant, that's crikey, they were interested in that story. And we had a huge sale that week. So it's quite, so it doesn't. We also had a story in Bognor of someone giving Bognor £250,000 to treat the drugs problem in Bognor. I mean, every town has a drugs problem, but Bognor had this money, and we led the front page on that. It was one of my worst-selling papers. And when you speak to the community afterwards, they said, "Well, we know there are issues. Every town has issues. We don't want to read about it on the front page of our local paper, thank you." And you're kind of going, "Well, actually, yeah, you're right." It's so we've got a responsibility too in our towns to actually talk up the towns. If there is like a fire in the middle of the town, we're not going to ignore it. And we're not going to ignore bad news stories, but actually there's more to a paper than that. But it's got to be something that people find interesting. So it can be quite a soft story, or it can be a real in-your-face story. So, and we're doing some investigations. We're looking at local councillors. It's election time. We're looking at the councillors and how many meetings they've been to, like in the past 4 years. Now we found one who we think has only been to 19 in 4 years. Now, if he's getting an allowance for that, and he's only been to 19, we're kind of thinking, what are you doing for your money? So we're looking at something we're actually investigating, and that's one of those you said before, is we're working on it now for a story in the future. And we've got some FOIs in with different businesses and different councils and stuff as well. So we're working on more things in the future too, being a bit more investigative.
You should be talking to Andy Tree. Came down to give a talk. He runs an accountancy firm, national accountancy firm, perhaps being Alton, I believe. And he's a local Bordon town councillor, and he's put up a slate of 15 candidates because he wants to take over the town council because he believes it's not doing what it's set out to do, which is represent the good burgers of Bordon.
Yeah.
Top guy as well.
He is. He's really
Top
good.
guy as
Really
well.
interesting to talk to. And I've spent 3 long sessions chatting with him, and he doesn't seem to be coming from a self-serving point of view at all. He's just like, I'm really sick and fed up and decided to do something about it. And that for me, that makes a good, an engaging piece, that you can talk to somebody who's fired up about something as well. It's a passion, definitely.
Well, you've got that going with Liphook, because I'm Liphook and
Yeah,
parish councillor
yeah.
Gabrielle.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I've just become
Yeah.
parish councillor this
Oh,
week,
really?
so on the
Yeah.
back of all the stuff that's been going
Yeah.
on. So it's good that you do, because a lot of people use the Liphook Herald to find out what's happening enough.
No, they do, yeah. But then we should also not be afraid to investigate and to ask questions. I mean, there was a council when I first came. I went to the full council. We talked about it earlier on. Went to a full council meeting. It was over in 11 minutes. This was a full council meeting, and already been told in advance. All the big decisions are made in the party group meetings, not in the public domain. So I talked to them afterwards and said, either you're the best run council in the world or you're the worst, because 11 minutes, you only meet as a full council once every 2 months. And they're quite open. They said, we've already made most of our decisions. And I said, but if you've got option A and option B, when do you discuss those two options? They said, well, that'd been our group meeting. I said, but no, that should be in the public domain. And they said, no, the public only have a right to know what we've decided, not how we get to that decision. I said, no, that's so wrong. Then we found that they had a big property portfolio. They're buying up property from all over the place. But half the members didn't know about it. There was a couple of chief officers knew about it and some council officers knew about it. But a lot of the members didn't know how big the portfolio was. And so we splashed it. We helped. We splashed it over page 1 and page 2 and page 3 of the paper. But we didn't want to know, we're thinking of buying X thing, because that's sensitive information, that's commercially sensitive. We're not going to plaster that all over the front page. But once it's a done deal and they have that in the bank, and that they own that, whatever they own, they owned a supermarket in Gloucester, then that should be in the public domain. We should know about that. And so we did an investigation, we did the piece, and then when they bought their next one, they did tell us about it, and we put the story in the paper when they bought the next thing in Derbyshire, which they told us about. We put that in the paper.
So you follow causes, and I was just wondering, one of the things that I want to do, my background also, amongst my many things, is that I'm a parent of a child with special needs, and there are very big issues with cutbacks and everything on children's services and what it's doing to the very vulnerable community. But also, I'm also in the middle of doing training as with Macathon, which is the signing. And there's a potential to do training tasters for the community, people without, because if you've got dementia, if you've got any kind of, it doesn't have to be special needs per se, it's a communication thing for everybody with strokes and with an ageing population, etc. So I've got a potential to run taster courses with a trainer who's going to cost me £120. And I want to offer this to the community as part of my community kind of various hats that I wear. Would you sponsor that sort of event so that cost to the venue, cost of training would be paid for, and we could offer it to people to come? Was that something that, again, when you say about creatives, would you actually do that kind of support?
We can't support with cash,
no, okay.
but we support in publicity,
okay.
which is the one thing we can offer.
Okay.
The trouble with the cash thing is if we support one particular community, one business, then everybody's going to want the same.
Yeah.
So, but we always say we can't do that. What we'll also do is we'll offer publicity.
Okay.
And sometimes if somebody, so if we got behind that, and so you might find a business who think, you know what, we could, we'll support that because we're going to get publicity in the paper. Sometimes that's all it needs, is to give somebody a nudge to put the money up front for you.
Okay.
With that, so that's
we could put
definitely
within the message to say if anyone would like to sponsor, because Gosport, the lady who's been involved with this in New Hampshire, has helped make Gosport and Macathon friendly.
I know Gosport very well. And who's the lady?
Her name's Jeanette.
I know Jeanette Donnelly. I know Jeanette as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing her on Friday.
Yeah.
And my idea is, especially now I'm wearing the parish council hat, and I'm also on the steering committee of the neighbourhood plan for Liphook, is to make Liphook and the surrounding area Macathon friendly as well. So that's one of my kind of goals.
Yeah, no, we'd do that. And again, that's the kind of thing that would make a news story, but also make a feature within Living about what Macathon is and why it makes things easier and what it's all about.
Okay.
So again, that's one of those things that by having a chat, rather than just a straight news story, actually we can do more on it than just that.
Okay.
So
I think we're going to have to wrap up there because the news won't wait. are poised for this place to sign off and say, done. So let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Colin.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll be hearing a lot from our members who are going to be thrashing out there.
I'll leave some cards on the thing there. If any of you aren't sure, then just say, ping me an email, whatever, just get in touch.
Can I jump in right quickly? I'm going to dash off the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we get a photo? What I'd like is you to get everybody else behind, okay? 5 people in front, each holding one of the papers.
Oh, I see.
So you will all
Hold the board. Why does the Herald not have